Welcome to the Direct Response Podcast. I'm your host, Travis Ketchum, founder of Campaign Refinery, joined today by David Cartolano of both the Inbox. Hey, man.
Hey, what's up, Travis?
Hey, so, today is kind of a one that requires a little bit more explanation because if you're here, you're wondering, did someone block my email? And how would I even know? And if they did, what are my options? So let's go ahead and sort of break this down. I think that there's two different ways we can look at this. There's the, hey, I'm using something like a Gmail or Hotmail and I'm sending to another sort of free, ISP mailbox provider. And then there's the, business side using like an email platform. And I think both of those have slightly different answers. So let's kind of go down those paths. So David, if I'm using a free mailbox provider from Google or Microsoft or whatever, and you've blocked me and I send you an email, you jerk, and
Don't take it personally, Travis.
and you blocked me, how would I tell that you blocked me?
So you would usually get a message, and Google has its own like mailer daemon address, but you're going to get a message from either Google, Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, saying, hey, we couldn't deliver this message because of X reason. And in that reason, they might provide saying like, oh, this mailbox isn't accepting, is full. They might say this mailbox is not accepting mail from this IP address, and they might be vague about it. They might just tell you, hey, stop emailing this person. But you're usually going to get a notification saying, we haven't delivered your address. We haven't delivered your email.
And this is effectively a hard bounce. And I'm defining that because we're going to use that language later.
Yep.
When we talk about more of the, sort of email service provider world. But effectively, this is a hard bounce. Now, are there ways for people to block your email to where they never see it, but me as you as the sender never actually truly get that feedback loop saying that you're blocked, that your email is not actually being viewed or going through?
Yeah. So people, if they're usually more tech aligned, they can say, all right, all of the emails from this person, I'm going to filter these emails and put them in a specific folder. I could just have them skip the inbox completely and just delete the emails immediately, or I can just send them straight to spam. Right. So, but that would reflect more on what we just previously covered. If you're being just blocked and sent to spam, then it's going to do that hard bounce. But people can block you just by filtering your email away. And also, I guess they can mentally block you. Like if they're done with your brand, but they don't know how to unsubscribe, which actually happens a lot with business to consumer, then they'll mentally block you and they'll just not open your stuff. And they'll be done, and they might complain, but they don't know how to unsubscribe.
Yeah, but we'll get a little more into that when we're talking about more of the mass email side of things. So, okay, you blocked me. You gave me the digital finger. And now it's like, okay, well, what do I do next? So as I see it, you have a couple options. One is depending on the response, if you get that feedback loop that says something like, you've been blocked, or the inbox is full. You can either reassess, is this a relationship or a piece of content I really need to send to them? If it's, hey, the mailbox is full, you might try to resend that email at a later date. Not like 5 minutes later, but probably a day or two later. It's when they've had time to hopefully get back in that inbox and delete some of the stuff that has made it full. If you are blocked and you think it may have been a mistake, you can try emailing them from a different mailbox provider. So you could use a different email address through a different service provider and sending them a note, maybe saying, hey, I tried sending this to you from XYZ email address. It looks like it was blocked. Was that an accident, or should I, go pound sand, basically?
Yeah.
So, essentially, though, you're looking at, okay, maybe something's wrong with this. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe they were mass blocking people and I accidentally got thrown in that. Let's maybe try a different email address and see if that goes through. And if that is successful, hopefully you can get some resolution with the person from there. Can you think of any other things at this point that you could try from mailbox to mailbox?
Them, like literally text them. And I do mean that not just like person to person, but also from a business standpoint. If you do have SMS, you can still text them about your business and still promote. Obviously, you need to follow the laws on that. But there's other ways of getting to people. So text them. I think what you said about shooting them an email from another email address, that's really great as well. But don't be shifty with it. All right, don't try and get slick, you black hat email marketer, where where someone unsubscribes from one domain, but you still have their address in another email account, so you send them an email from another domain. That's illegal. All right, that's illegal. Illegal. All right. So in no ways are we giving you permission to be like, yeah, here's how to do it. Like, go forth. No,
Yeah.
don't be a jerk.
I'm more focused on person to person, one to one
Yeah,
interactions where I'm trying to email David, and David, of course, accidentally blocked me. So let me try from my other provider to see if that was indeed an accident, and maybe he can rectify the problem from his
yeah,
end. Let's shift gears into the email service provider world. Obviously, that's where Cambion Refinery plays, and that's where you spend a lot of time. And you heard us use the term hard bounce before, and you get these feedback loops. But when you're at scale, ingesting, understanding, and maintaining those feedback loops becomes a bigger deal, right? Because it
totally.
compounds. Do you want to talk a little bit about soft bounce versus hard bounce? And
Yeah,
I can elaborate more once you've sort of given the baseline.
yeah, absolutely. So to put this in non-techie layperson terms, I always love to put email into like physical mail to help explain it. So an email bouncing is when you have a postman or woman or whatever, and you go up to a door, and they go up to the door, they knock on the door because they have a letter, and no one answers the door. So then the postmaster, huh, funny. The mailman decides to take the email, not the email. See, I'm getting tripped up. It decides to take the letter back to his truck, right? The email literally made it to your front door and then bounced. Now, maybe it's because you weren't home, right? The server was busy, all right? That's more of a soft bounce, okay? No big deal. However, if the mailman brings an email to your door, the letter to your door, and then has to go back to the truck because you no longer live at that address, that's
Or
what's
the
known as a
house was
hard
demolished.
bounce.
The house was
The
demolished.
house might have been demolished and he's just knocking on it a door frame, right? So soft bounce, it's temporary. Sometimes the server's down, sometimes there's a digital dip in the matrix, whatever you want to call it. But it doesn't mean that you're not there, right? A hard bounce is when there's a serious problem. There ain't no way that that letter is getting across that door into your hands ever. And that's when email senders get in trouble, because if you're sending too many emails that bounce, that are
Hard
going
bounce.
to the door, that are going to empty doors, then Google and Yahoo, AOL, Outlook, the rest of them are going to start looking and saying, why are you sending so much mail to people that don't exist?
And
That's
wasting
what
everyone's
spammers
time.
do. You seem like a spammer. So we're going to start to uh, just not deliver your emails to the inbox. We might throw them in a different tab, or we might just throw them straight in the spam folder. Or, if you're really screwed, they just won't even accept your email. Okay, so the difference between soft bounces and hard bounces, soft bounces aren't too much of a problem. Okay, if you are getting a lot of soft bounces, then I would take a look at the emails you're bringing in. But hard bounces, that can cause a serious, like, oh my God, we're running a sale and all of our emails went into spam overnight, and our open rate went from 30% to 3%. That's not an exaggeration. That is actually an example I have seen when working with a client on getting their emails out of spam. Like it just happened overnight. Too many bounces.
So, let's talk about how most email platforms handle this. I can tell you how we at Campaign Refinery handle this, and I think it's pretty in line with how most other ESPs would handle it as well. So, with soft bounces, with those, hey, they weren't home, or the mailbox was full, or whatever, the sort of low rate offenses. For example, we allow 5 of those major events or minor events, not major, minor events to happen before we will fully unsubscribe a lead. And it is common for retries to happen in the background. So what we're talking about is 5 unique occurrences. So you've sent 5 different emails, and each one of those instances has gone through their retry cadence and failed. The retries can also sometimes just be limited trust of a mailbox provider with you in general. So sometimes you'll see an increase in deferrals, soft bounces, and retries end up happening with a particular mailbox provider. So maybe you're like, hey, everything looks pretty good, but it takes a little bit long time for this to sort of sort out. Oh, looks like Comcast is temporarily sort of giving us the yellow light of saying, hey, man, why don't you slow down a little bit while we figure out if we can actually trust you or not, right? So That's pretty common. It's fairly nerdy, but you as a sender generally don't have to worry too much about that as long as it does eventually resolve, because those are sort of the normal ebbs and flows of mailbox providers over time. It could be a sign of something else from infrastructure side, which I don't really want to get into on this particular podcast. But there are things related to IPs and IP volume and stress and consistency and all that kind of stuff that your infrastructure, your email service provider should be able to manage and sort out for you if they're competent. If they're not, then that's a whole different story. The major offenses, the hard bounces, the hey, this mailbox does not exist, or has been closed down. Those are a lot more serious. And for us, one event of that, and we unsubscribe the email because we do not want our hand in that cookie jar ever if we can avoid it. And you may be asking, okay, well, how do I avoid these scenarios in the first place, right? Because as David mentioned, and you were completely on point, too many of these and you find yourself into real trouble. Yeah. So the first step is have the rule in place that if you have a hard bounce, you are immediately ceasing all future efforts to contact that email address. That is the most basic thing that should be happening. But unfortunately, that is often a control of your email service provider that you're using, not something that you can go in and play with the dials. The things you do have control over, though, is preemptive and continuous cleaning. And I don't just mean, oh, let's remove unsubscribe. I mean like proactive checks to see in advance before hitting send, is this email valid? Is this email risky?
So can you break that down, Travis, when you say cleaning? Because people think cleaning is just removing subscribers that haven't opened in a long time.
Yeah, and that is a type of cleaning. But when I say cleaning, I mean using a service that can do a programmatic check on the validity and or the risk profile of a contact before you ever hit send. So that service can take the brunt of the, let's peek under the hood and see, is it real? Is it active? Do we have any recent history about this email address that would tell us about its risk profile, so that you can know in advance before hitting send, which is the very key piece of this, if that is a bad email, or even if it's valid, is it risky? And so this is something that we've baked into Campaign Refiner, but there's other ways you can run cleaners on your existing email tool, even if you don't change. And you as a high quality sender should be implementing this not only when an email first enters your platform, because you need to check, is it valid? And then if it is valid, is it risky? But you need to be rechecking, because there is a natural decay of subscribers on your email list. It tends to be, a couple percent per month for a lot of email lists. So some percentage of your email list is going to be abandoned, no longer be correct, get deleted in its entirety, or become risky over time, even if day one that they got on your list, they were valid and they weren't risky, right? Their profile can actually change. So it's really important that you're not only checking originally, but that you have a cleaner sort of running in the background and checking on a rolling basis. The best practice is every 90 days or more frequently, that you're rechecking, so that every time you hit send, you know that peek under the hood, that programmatic peek under the hood, happened no more than 90 days ago. So at least within the last 90 days, it is valid. And you will still get a few hard bounces that will slip in there. Okay. And that's where you have to rely on the rule set of your email service provider to be, above board, valid, clean, well thought out, to say if we get one hard bounce for a subscriber, we will then also remove them. But we've de-risked your list in general by doing that programmatic check, and then also doing the is it risky check.
Yeah. It's important to make sure that when you're delivering mail to people, that they're actually living at their addresses. That is what separates you from the spammers out there. Because spammers will just buy an entire list off of God knows where, right? And then just send as many emails as they can to try and squeeze every penny, every half cent they can out of that list. Because they're terrible people, right? So, it's really important to clean your list to make sure that you don't look like them, because when you do look like them, the algorithms pick it up and you go to spam. And it actually, again, like if you have a list of, it doesn't matter until it matters, right? Like if you have a list of 300 people and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm only getting a couple of bounces. Is that going to throw you into spam? No. If you have a list of 30,000 people and you're doing a Black Friday campaign, and that is like the revenue you are depending on to close out your year. And spam filters are at their highest at that time. And you're not checking to see if people are actually living at those addresses, and you send out a bunch of mailmen, well, you're not going to have a very good Black Friday. And this stuff happens. It happens all the time. And from what I've found, it's only happening more. And Google is making it easier for people to block you. I don't know if you've seen that inside of Gmail. Google will actually say like, "Hey, you haven't heard from this person in a long time. Unsubscribe from them." And then they also have like block them, and they have that almost as a suggestion right in the inbox. So that's something that they're rolling out too. So they're making it easier for people who seem like they're spamming to be either unsubscribed from or even blocked.
Yeah, it's an ever-changing world, which is why it's so important to stay on top of the list integrity is or data integrity is as I like to call it, which is definitely a big piece of it, and that's why we baked it into our platform, and why we even now offer it, for external third-party tools. So even if you aren't using Campaign Refiner and you don't want to switch email service providers, we've got, access to some of the best cleaning tools in the marketplace, in my opinion, because we've done thorough research across many, many, many different cleaners. And we buy in obscene volumes, hundreds of millions at a time, and we try to pass that along to our other users and make it available, because it's such a key component of doing email right. So make sure that you're doing cleaning. We've got links down below for how to get started with that at an absurdly affordable price if you're really trying to rock and roll with the cleaning business. But I think we've covered both sides of this. We've covered the sort of the consumer, the one-to-one side. We've also covered the B2B, the one-to-many side, and the risks and the challenges and the sort of problem solving is a little bit different for each, but at its core, it is, can the email get through, yes or no, or can it just not get through right now? And we've talked about strategies on how to get around that for both. So if you want to learn more about this, we of course have our article linked down below. If you want to use an email service provider that actually does cleaning and enforces it for everyone on their platform, so that everyone that you're sending with is also at the same level, check out campaignrefinery.com down below. And David, what's the deal with newsletters?
Yeah, so if you are interested in growing and selling your newsletter, you can go to wealthyinbox.news and you can check out my blog there. So don't talk too much about blocking though, because usually people are blocking you. Maybe the newsletter you run, you don't need my advice. I think you need to take a look in the mirror,
For sure. And if you found this topic interesting and you like to nerd out about email and technology and honestly just digital marketing in general, and you want to hang out with David and I more often, make sure you like and subscribe here on YouTube, and we will talk to you soon.